A lot of people are pointing to Lane Kiffin, who at times will take liberties with the rules or the regulations and find loopholes in them. Uh, there are times when I've described him as a little bit slimy, a little bit greasy. He definitely tries to figure out how he can push the envelope. In fact, this is kind of funny as a wrinkle to this. It doesn't have anything to do with the 5th year of eligibility. But did you see the story that Ole Miss actually went through and checked his former office for bugs? So apparently, and this is coming from the athletic director, there's a player or an active athlete at Ole Miss whose father works for the FBI. And so while they didn't actually hire the FBI to come in and sweep Lane Kiffin's former office and the facilities, he did come in, according to the AD, he did come in and help them look for bugs. But the AD admits that he was down on his knees looking up underneath the desk to find out if there were listening devices because they weren't so sure that Lane Kiffin might not have bugged his office to get an extra advantage, if you will. So there are some suspicions and people are instantly jumping to, hey, this is Lane Kiffin. This is him being greasy. This is him trying to exploit the rules and recruit these guys and get ahead of it as a way to boost LSU. Well, the SEC definitely doesn't like it, regardless of the fact that right now the legal process is on the side of these athletes getting their 5th year. But the SEC does not agree with Lane Kiffin, and when he says, "Hey, if we don't recruit them, someone else will." It's just that the connection is there. So you wonder if this was done through backdoor channels and backdoor conversations to the point where, let me explain, the athletes might not have sought a 5th year of eligibility through the legal route if not for the fact that they knew LSU would be waiting for them if they got a favorable outcome. Does that make sense? So they pursued this legal route in Baton Rouge, which is the home of LSU. And by doing so, if they had the support of the university and knew that Lane Kiffin would be waiting there with open arms at a roster spot, that there would be, and I don't know, I have not seen this addressed anywhere, but that there would be NIL money waiting for Dae'Quan Wright or other athletes when they return to college, they might not have pursued this avenue. Okay, so knowing they had a soft place to land, if you will. It's a little bit like quitting one job because you know you have another job and a salary and a position waiting for you. And the fact that the judge is in Baton Rouge means that you're likely, I don't want to accuse the judge of any nefarious conduct or being biased because that's wrong. It looks like they found a judge by filing in that district court. It looks like they found a judge who will see it their way because maybe he identifies more with LSU in Baton Rouge. But I'm not accusing a judge of, again, being biased or not upholding the law. This is a loophole the NCAA created. So it's on the NCAA, who maybe should have seen this coming, with drawing the line of demarcation and not grandfathering in athletes who were just graduated or graduated right before this rule would take effect. But again, the SEC is not on the side of Lane Kiffin. Here is the statement released after the SEC presidents and chancellors had an emergency video conference. So this is the statement in its entirety. College athletes, not former professional athletes, have been at the heart of the Southeastern Conference. Individuals who choose to leave college athletics, sign professional playing contracts, and compete professionally should not then be permitted to return to college competition. Allowing that to occur will blur the line between college and professional sports, create significant competitive equity concerns, and reduce opportunities for high school and current college athletes. College sports are for college athletes. The current confusion around national eligibility standards emphasizes the need to advance the Protect College Sports Act. So that last line there, well, that's more about, hey, let's get this legislation pushed through on Capitol Hill. This act has been in the hands of Congress. They were looking at it. They potentially were going to take a vote, but then took their late summer recess. It's not the first piece of legislation to get stalled in Congress when it comes to college sports, but clearly the SEC is on the side of feeling like this legislation could in fact rein in what is a free for all in college sports right now. But to be fair, it's a little bit ironic that the SEC is pushing for this and also pushing for regulations, considering that the SEC is a major reason why college sports are out of control right now, paying under the guise of NIL top flight athletes millions and millions of dollars. There are different studies out there, maybe incomplete, but they give you a gist that indicate there are more than one, maybe up to a dozen schools right now that have $40 million rosters, meaning that their athletes overall, they're paying athletes, whether it's NIL, whether it's just flat out pay for play, that they are paying their athletes, their college athletes as a whole, more than $40 million. And some of those schools are in the SEC. So this whole deal about competitive equity, I mean, that to me is ridiculous. And also the fact that the line that if you allow athletes to go from college to pro and come back, that the line is blurred between pro and college sports. Are you kidding me? The line's been blurred since the NIL legislation that allowed schools to start funneling money to athletes that is seven figures and up. I mean, the line is already blurred. It's just funny that they chose to draw their line in the sand, at this point here. I do agree with the part about the opportunities for high school and current college athletes. If you're going to have this pipeline that goes pro to college, you are reducing opportunities for college athletes who aren't going to play at the next level, but are enjoying whatever eligibility they have left. And also to recruit young people coming out of high school, going to end up losing roster spots for them as well if this is a ruling that's allowed to proliferate. Goodness, it's so gray area. It's so complicated. Okay, so you've got other conferences that are weighing in. And even as I am going to tell you about the Big Ten and the bold step that they're taking, I saw this on X and wanted to pass it along. Chris Vanini, he covers college sports for The Athletic. He's a senior writer. I've spoken to him before on shows in the past. He says the ACC is considering a league-wide rule to prohibit NFL players from playing in the conference. That's according to the Wake Forest athletic director and the ACC athletic director chair. His name is John Curry. You may be familiar with him, but he comes out of Wake Forest, but he's giving this scoop to Chris Vanini of The Athletic. He says the ACC ADs have a regularly scheduled meeting tomorrow. That means Wednesday. And this eligibility issue is on the agenda. Okay, so we've already heard from the SEC with a strongly worded statement. We know that the Big Ten is taking a bolder step, and I'll get to that here momentarily. Now the ACC is going to address it. Probably didn't think they'd have to include this on the agenda for their regularly scheduled meeting. But according to Chris Vanini of The Athletic, in fact, they're going to address it as well. Okay, so here's the Big Ten, which is the first conference to take a step that would say, absolutely not in our conference. The Big Ten is set to pass a rule on Tuesday. So this news was breaking just a couple hours ago. And if you're watching the show live, this is a situation that's very much in flux. And so 6 hours down the road, or someone who's listening to this show as a podcast overnight, which I think is awesome, this may have already taken place. The Big Ten is set to pass a rule Tuesday that bars, prohibits, does not allow players to return from the NFL and then jump onto a roster for one of its member schools. And this is according to ESPN insider Pete Thamel. Any player who's declared for the NFL draft and did not withdraw. So regardless of whether or not Dae'Quan Wright was drafted, and it turns out he wasn't, he ended up signing an undrafted free agent deal with the Eagles first and then with the Browns. Dae'Quan Wright would no longer be eligible to participate on the college level in the Big Ten because he did put his name out there for the draft and did not withdraw before the deadline. Okay, so they've got multiple stipulations here, but just the idea of declaring for the draft and not withdrawing, regardless of whether or not you actually ended up hearing your name called, that would be one way that you would become ineligible to participate in Big Ten athletics. The next tenet of this, what the Big Ten is expected to adopt, this policy would also include any player who appeared on an NFL roster or signed a contract with a pro league cannot then turn around and be on a Big Ten roster. And again, this comes from ESPN insider Pete Thamel. So the Big Ten is going to adopt the first policy of its kind. The ACC may follow suit on Wednesday, but the Big Ten is saying if you declared for the draft and you did not withdraw, and by the way, that's a basketball policy too. I mean, they've already got a policy when it comes to the NBA. There's a deadline. If you declare for the draft and you don't withdraw by the deadline, you're no longer eligible to return to college. So that's actually not a unique idea. We just never thought we would need it for the NFL and for football. So Big Ten, they're throwing down the gauntlet. No way. This is not going to happen in our conference. Will the ACC follow suit? Will the SEC also take this step? Except, can the SEC take this step when LSU has already got a Dae'Quan Wright who is headed for its roster, not to mention some basketball players that might end up in the SEC at both LSU and Kentucky and maybe some other member schools. So these guys, these athletes, at this point, it's all male athletes. These athletes better get in under the wire before the SEC takes a step like this as well. So yeah, kind of convoluted.